It was the kind of office that felt too clean. Polished marble floors, glass walls that reflected every movement, and that cold, recycled air smell mixed with the faint sting of espresso and burnt printer ink. David had just landed the internship of his dreams. 22, broke, and clinging to his resume like it was armor. The firm sat on the 36th floor downtown, high above the noise, where the city looked more like a simulation than something real. Brian, his supervisor, wore tailored suits and cologne that smelled like smoke and money. He was the kind of guy who could silence a room just by walking in. Smile too perfect, handshake just a little too firm. At first, Brian took David under his wing, inviting him to rooftop happy hours, name-dropping CEOs, tossing him expensive pens like party favors. Everything about it felt surreal, a little too good. But David told himself it was just success taking shape. Still, something in Brian's eyes didn't quite match the charm in his voice. There was a sharpness, like he was watching, measuring, waiting. The first few weeks felt like a dream. David got used to the weight of the access badge clipped to his belt, the gleam of brushed steel elevators whisking him up into corporate heaven. Brian kept calling him into meetings, small ones at first, then big ones. Rooms with closed doors, charts glowing on screens, voices tight with urgency. David didn't know half the lingo, but Brian always made him feel like he belonged, tossing him little nods of approval, casually telling others, "He's sharp. Watch this one." It felt good. Too good. Then the tone shifted. It started with a flash drive. One night, long after most of the lights were off and the city hummed outside like a sleeping beast, Brian tossed it on David's desk, said, "Pull the numbers from this. Keep it between us." No explanation. No smile this time. Just a long look, the kind that lingered too long. David hesitated, then nodded. When he opened the files later that night, they weren't just numbers. They were internal projections, sensitive client data, things interns had no business touching. He stared at the screen until his chest tightened. He should have said something, but he didn't. From that night on, Brian changed. He stopped being friendly. No more rooftop drinks. No more casual high fives in the hallway. Now it was clipped instructions, quiet calls just before midnight, files shared through encrypted links. The tension coiled tighter each day. David's inbox filled with messages that disappeared after reading. Brian's tone became colder, his eyes flat and unreadable. Once, David caught him watching from the glass wall of the office as he walked past. Not blinking, just watching. The paranoia crept in slowly. David started feeling eyes on him at random moments. The woman in HR stopped smiling. The security guard at the entrance began asking to see his badge, even though he saw David every day. One morning, he found his desk had been moved without notice. No explanation, just a new spot closer to the elevators, farther from everything else. That same week, one of the analysts who used to joke with him at lunch suddenly stopped making eye contact. David found her desk cleared out by Friday. Then came the portfolio meeting. Brian had David sit in. Midway through, he referenced a market projection David had never seen before, but his name was on it, printed, in ink. When David glanced at it, his hands went cold. It was wrong, way off. The numbers could tank the firm's standing with one of their major clients, but Brian just smiled and said, "He's still learning." Laughter around the room. David wanted to speak up, but Brian's hand briefly touched his shoulder on the way out. Just a light press. It said everything. David didn't sleep much after that. He'd walk into work with a pit in his stomach. the walls feeling closer, the office colder. Sometimes he thought he heard his name whispered behind him in passing, too quiet to be sure. One night, his apartment door was unlocked. Nothing stolen, nothing out of place, just unlocked. He started checking over his shoulder on the subway, deleted his socials. His phone began vibrating with unknown numbers at strange hours. Always one ring, then silence. By the end of the month, David wasn't sure what scared him more, Brian or the feeling that Brian was no longer the only one watching him. It all unraveled on a Thursday. The day started like the others. Gray sky, sour coffee, elevator groaning under fluorescent lights. David's palms were already sweating before he even swiped his badge. But something was off. The receptionist wouldn't meet his eyes. The hallway was dead quiet. At his desk, his login didn't work. Just a red error screen, blinking. Unauthorized access. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message. Just a single photo. A screenshot of an email thread with his name attached. The subject line read, "Internal breach, David H." The thread showed forged timestamps, fake downloads, and an IP address traced to his personal laptop. His mouth went dry. The screen blurred. A few minutes later, two guys in suits, not security, but clean-cut legal types, walked up to his desk. No words, just a nod. Brian trailed behind them, cool as ever, a latte in hand. "Let's talk in here," he said, ushering them into the corner conference room with walls like fish bowls. David followed, legs stiff, chest tight, heart pounding so loud he could barely hear. As the door shut, everything muted. The room was ice cold. On the table sat a thin black binder, already open to a summary report. David's name was everywhere. They slid him a printout of the leaked data, his supposed signature, a trail of evidence that made him look like a corporate thief. His head spun. "This isn't mine," he mumbled, voice cracking. Brian didn't even look at him. He just said calmly, "HR's going to reach out. We'll keep this internal if we can." Then he stood and walked out. No chance to argue, no chance to explain. David stumbled out of the building 2 hours later, his badge deactivated, email wiped, no one returning his calls. That night, in a panic, he dug through his laptop and found a folder buried in his external drive. Hidden, encrypted, inside. Documents he'd never seen, time-stamped weeks ago. The exact files from the flash drive. Only now, they were labeled under his own name. There was even a selfie of him at his desk attached to one. He stared at it for a long time, heart racing. He didn't remember taking it, didn't remember any of it. Then his phone buzzed again. This time, a video. It was grainy but unmistakable. Footage of him sitting in the break room, headphones in, unaware. In the background, Brian walked past, paused, looked at the camera, and smirked directly into the lens. He raised a finger to his lips, then walked on. That night, David threw up twice. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that smirk, that finger, that message. Not goodbye, just a warning. David didn't sleep that night. He sat in his apartment with every light on, curtains drawn, laptop shut, phone powered off and buried in the freezer. But still, he couldn't shake the feeling, like something had crawled inside his head and nested there. Every passing car made him flinch. The hum of the fridge felt louder than it should have. Even his own breath felt unnatural, like it didn't belong to him. He tried to tell people, old friends, professors, even his parents. No one believed him. The emails, the files, the video, all gone. erased, like they'd never existed. Even his laptop wiped clean by the time he turned it back on. Not a trace left. And when he reached out to other interns from the firm, their numbers were disconnected, or they simply responded with vague, polite texts. "Sorry, man, can't help you." One of them blocked him minutes after replying. A week later, a new internship was canceled without warning, then another. Even barista jobs ghosted him after interviews. Something was happening behind the curtain, slow and quiet and suffocating. One night, he came home to find a sealed envelope under his door. No return address. Inside was a single photo, David sitting at a cafe 2 days earlier, looking over his shoulder. A caption was scribbled across the bottom in neat black ink. "Still learning." He moved cities after that, changed his name, new haircut, burner phone, cash under the mattress. But every so often, he'd catch a glimpse of someone across the street, standing too still, or hear a laugh that sounded a little too familiar. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, he'd wake up to the faint vibration of a phone that wasn't there. He never figured out what Brian wanted. He just knows he's still out there, watching and waiting. Did Brian plan it from day one, or was David just the next name on a list? The photo in the envelope, who took it, and how did they know where he'd be? And what about the others who vanished from the firm? Were they silenced, or did they just stop running? Megan found the listing on a neighborhood app. 1-bedroom sublet, luxury building, dirt cheap for the area. Too good to be true, but she was desperate. The place looked spotless when she toured it. Tall windows, marble countertops, a view of the skyline that made everything seem brighter. Her upstairs neighbor, Tyler, introduced himself right away. Early 30s, clean-cut, calm voice, eyes that never quite matched his smile. Said his dad owned the building. The hallways always smelled faintly of lemon polish and something stale underneath, like old carpet soaked in cologne. Her first night there, she kept hearing soft thumps from above, too steady to be footsteps, too irregular to ignore. When she mentioned it, Tyler just laughed, said the pipes were old. At first, Megan brushed it off. The weird thumping from the ceiling, the sudden cold spots in the hallway, the flickering light outside her door that always buzzed a little louder when she walked past. Tyler seemed friendly enough. He offered to help her carry up boxes, brought her extra keys just in case, and even installed a new door chain without her asking. He always showed up right after she got home, like he was listening for the elevator chime. Still, she smiled, thanked him, tried not to overthink it. He lived upstairs. It made sense. Mostly. Then small things started shifting. The blinds she always left shut were halfway open one afternoon. Her toothbrush was slightly damp before she'd even touched it. A red wine glass in the sink that she was sure she hadn't used. She chalked it up to moving stress, long days, foggy memory. But at night, the thumps turned to dragging sounds, like something being pulled slowly across the floor above her, stopping and starting, always between 2 and 4 a.m. The ceiling creaked like it was breathing, and when she looked up, it felt like something looked back. Tyler started texting more. It wasn't just neighborly check-ins anymore. He'd mention things that felt off. Hope your interview went okay, on a day she never told him she had one. That navy shirt looks better than the black one, when she hadn't seen him all morning. He never came off aggressive, just overly familiar, too comfortable. She turned off her location services, deleted the neighborhood app, switched out the smart speaker. Still, he knew things. Once, she came home to find a bag of groceries at her door, items she'd scribbled on a paper list she never took outside. When she finally confronted him, light, polite, nervous, Tyler laughed it off, said he was just intuitive, that he noticed things. But that night, her bathroom light wouldn't turn off. The switch clicked, but the bulb stayed glowing, low and sickly. She unscrewed it. It still glowed in her hand, faint and pulsing. The next morning, a note was slipped under her door. Neat, square handwriting on lined paper. "You looked sad last night. I'm here if you want to talk." Megan's stomach sank. She hadn't cried, not where anyone could see. She double-locked the door, blocked his number, and bought a chain lock for the bedroom window. She stopped sleeping fully, just napped in tense, shallow bursts with one ear open. She kept hearing clicks, soft metallic taps, like keys testing her doorknob. Then came the scent. Sweet, sharp cologne, the same kind Tyler wore, started seeping into her vents at night. It lingered in her sheets, on her towels. Once, it clung to the back of her neck when she woke up. She called the landlord's number, but no one picked up. Left voicemails. No response. 3 days later, the app listing for her sublet was gone. No record, no screenshots saved. When she emailed the contact address, it bounced back. User does not exist. That night, she dreamt of the apartment door unlocking. But when she jolted awake, her front door was still swinging open, inch by inch, on silent hinges. Megan waited until just after sunset to start packing. She moved fast, stuffing clothes into trash bags, slamming drawers, shaking with adrenaline. She didn't care where she went, anywhere but here. Every sound outside her door felt amplified, each creak of the hallway floor a pulse of dread. The apartment lights flickered once, then steadied, humming with that strange low buzz she'd learned to hate. She was shoving a laptop charger into her duffel when the power cut out completely. Silence swallowed the room. The hum, the fridge, even the distant hallway fan, gone. Just darkness and her own ragged breathing. She froze. The emergency lights outside her unit glowed a dull red, casting the walls in long, bloody shadows. Her phone flashlight flicked on, trembling in her hand. Then came the knock. Software. Slow. Deliberate. 3 taps, perfectly spaced, on her bedroom window. Not the front door. The window. 5th floor. Megan's heart punched into her throat. The curtain barely swayed as she stepped back. She forced herself to lift the edge and peek, expecting to see empty sky. But there he was. Tyler stood on the tiny ledge outside her window, pressed close to the glass, face lit from below by a pale blue screen, her phone. He held it up with one hand, eyes locked on hers, his expression blank. His other hand slowly reached out and tapped the window again, fingertips dragging down the glass like nails on bone. Her phone buzzed on the floor. She didn't look. She didn't need to. He'd been inside. She backed away, shaking, locked the bedroom door behind her like it would do anything. From the hall came the sound of metal scraping into metal, her front door lock turning from the outside. No voices, no footsteps, just that metallic twist. She bolted for the kitchen, grabbed the only weapon she could, a pair of scissors, and ducked behind the island. The door creaked open. She held her breath. The smell hit first. That same synthetic cologne, thick and sharp, flooding the space like gas. She heard soft footfalls, The gentle tap of shoes across tile. A pause. The light sound of something being set down. Her phone, probably. Then, a soft hum. Familiar. It took her a second to place it. Tyler was humming the same tune she played on her Bluetooth speaker her first night there. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The humming stopped. And then she heard him whisper, so close it felt like it came from right behind her. "You don't have to leave. I already made space." She turned and slashed, but no one was there. The apartment was empty. Her phone sat neatly on the counter, screen glowing. One notification. Location sharing enabled. Megan left the apartment that night and never went back. She didn't even take the bags she packed, just her wallet and keys, and even those felt wrong in her hands, like they didn't belong to her anymore. She moved across the city, paid cash for a month-to-month rental in a place with no doorman, no elevator, no neighbors she'd ever speak to. She changed her number, shut off every account tied to her name. Still, she felt watched. Some mornings, she'd wake up and the blinds would be tilted a little differently than she remembered. A shadow would pass by her peephole too slow, like whoever it was wanted to be seen but not caught. She stopped using the internet at home. She kept the lights on even during the day, but that sickly sweet cologne would show up now and then, faint at first, just a whiff in a stairwell or outside her laundry room. It always hit just as she let her guard down. A few weeks later, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. Her asleep, face turned to the wall, sheets pushed down just enough to show the curve of her shoulder. On the back, one line in that same neat handwriting. "I told you I'd always keep an eye on you." How long had he been inside before she noticed? How many photos had he taken while she slept? The locks, the lights, the cologne, none of it ever stopped. And somewhere out there, someone still knows exactly where she is, and exactly when she lets her guard down. Jason had only taken the job to pay rent. Night shifts at a gas station just off the interstate. The kind of place lit by buzzing fluorescents and soaked in the smell of burnt coffee and old mop water. It was quiet most nights. Just him, the hum of the freezer, and the occasional trucker grabbing smokes or a microwave burrito. Then Cliff showed up, new shift manager. Late 40s, lean build, stiff posture, boots always too clean. His voice was calm but clipped, like every word was measured. The first night, he just watched. Didn't say much, just watched, like he was memorizing Jason's rhythm, the way he moved, what he did with his hands. Something about him made the air feel heavier. At first, Cliff didn't seem like more than a quiet, hard ass. He clocked in 5 minutes early every night, did his rounds without a word, and corrected Jason in small, uncomfortable ways. How he stocked the gum, how he counted bills, even how he stood behind the counter. "Feet shoulder width, hands in front, makes you look alert," he said once, barely above a whisper. Jason laughed it off. Cliff didn't. Just stared at him until the smile dropped from Jason's face. Then came the workouts. "You should come lift with me after shift," Cliff said, out of nowhere, around week 2. Jason thought it was a joke, but Cliff showed up the next morning in compression gear, waiting outside the store with 2 protein shakes already opened. He knew Jason's schedule by heart, which bus he took, where he transferred, what time he got home. "I mapped your route," he said casually one day. You've got vulnerabilities. It wasn't friendly concern. It was surveillance. Jason started seeing Cliff outside of work, once at the laundromat across town. Another time, parked across from his apartment, engine running, window cracked. No wave, just watching. Jason confronted him gently, but Cliff brushed it off. Just keeping an eye out. That's what good leaders do. His tone was flat, expression unreadable. Weird things started happening at work too. The stockroom light would flicker only when Jason was in there alone. Once, the freezer door slammed shut behind him so hard the shelves rattled. He heard the click of the lock, just for a second. Then it popped open. No one was there. The cameras? Offline that night, Cliff said, typing something into the back office computer he never let Jason touch. Then his girlfriend lost her job. She worked at a thrift shop a few blocks away. Her manager said she was linked to a problematic person. No further info. The next day, Jason found one of her earrings in the glove compartment of his car. She swore she hadn't left it there. One night, Cliff asked Jason to stay late for emergency protocol drills. Jason refused. The next day, his schedule was switched. Back-to-back night shifts with no break, no warning. HR didn't respond to emails. His hours kept changing without notice. Every time he logged into the system, the screen looked slightly different. Menus out of place, functions missing. The worst part wasn't even what Cliff said. It was what he didn't. The silence when Jason walked in. The way Cliff would stand in the dark at the edge of the gas station lot, barely visible, hands folded behind his back. Just watching. Always watching. One night, Jason looked up at the security monitor and saw Cliff staring into the camera from aisle 3, motionless for 20 minutes. He never blinked. When Jason finally worked up the nerve to walk over, the aisle was empty. The feed glitched and reset. No recording, no timestamp. And that's when Jason realized he'd never actually seen Cliff leave the building. Not once. It happened on a Monday, just past 3 a.m., the kind of hour where even the crickets outside gave up. Jason had just finished restocking the cooler, fingers still numb from the cold glass bottles, when the lights overhead flickered and cut. Every bulb in the store died at once. Not a surge, not a pop. Just silence, and then black. The backup lights should have kicked on, but nothing happened. Jason stood there, breathing shallow, lit only by the weak blue glow of the candy rack's tiny LED strip. He stepped toward the register, and that's when he heard it. A click from the back office. Not the door. A light switch, followed by the soft scrape of a boot on tile. "Cliff!" he called out, voice barely holding steady. No response, just another click. Then the slow hum of the security system rebooting. The monitor above the counter blinked back to life, but instead of the usual 4-way camera feed, it showed just one angle, the back hallway. Grainy, overexposed. And there was Jason standing there, live on screen. But behind him, about 20 feet down the hallway, was someone else. Cliff. Only, Cliff wasn't standing. He was crouched low, body stiff, head tilted too far to the side, eyes locked directly into the camera. Jason spun around, heart slamming in his chest, but the hallway was empty. Dead silent. No footsteps, no breathing, just the hum of an old fridge compressor kicking on behind him. The monitor flickered again. Now the camera feed showed Jason at the counter. Present time. And Cliff, standing inches behind him, still, frozen, almost like a frame that hadn't loaded properly. But Jason knew he was alone. He could feel it. He could swear it. And then the register drawer exploded open, unprovoked. Coins flew. The receipt printer buzzed and started spitting out a line of gibberish symbols, long and looping, ending in one word typed clean, centered, in bold. Disobedience. Jason backed away, shaking, eyes darting toward the exit. But the glass front doors were locked, metal shutters halfway down. They never locked from the outside. He didn't remember hearing them lower. He didn't remember anyone triggering them. A whisper scraped across the speakers overhead, low and glitchy, his name stretched out like a broken tape. Ja-san. Then again, closer. Too close. And from somewhere in the dark behind the stockroom door came the slow creak of it opening, and a single flashlight beam swept across the floor, searching, deliberate, controlled. Cliff's voice followed, steady and cold. You failed inspection. Jason doesn't remember running. Just the sound of his own footsteps slapping against the tile, the scrape of his shoulder against the exit frame, and the cold night air swallowing him as he burst out into the empty lot. The lights inside the gas station never came back on. The glass stayed dark, reflecting nothing but his own twisted expression. No sirens, no cameras, no proof. Just a low hum still vibrating in his ears like a warning that never stopped. He never went back. He quit by text, blocked the number, packed a duffel, and left town by morning. But something followed. He started seeing him, Cliff, in flashes, in reflections, in windows that shouldn't have shown anything but sky. At a motel 2 states away, the room phone rang at 2:37 a.m. He answered without thinking. Shift begins now, said the voice on the other end. Deadline. No dial tone. The next day, his bank app locked him out. His email credentials vanished. His lease application was denied before he submitted it. Every part of his life, digitally, physically, started coming undone. And always, in the background, that hum. Faint, but constant. In his headphones, through wall vents, behind the static of old hotel TVs, like something watching through wires. 3 weeks later, a manila envelope showed up outside his door. Inside was a printout of his employee badge. Next to it, typed in the same bold sans serif font used on the gas station's back office reports, were 2 words: not terminated. Did Cliff ever really exist? Or was he something built into the system, waiting for the right person to break routine? Jason never logged out, never clocked out, and somewhere, that shift log is still open, tracking every breath he takes.